My wife asked me, if you really want to change the world, what do you need to change? I said the banking system, the financial monetary system. We discussed this extensively in the second part. I already showed you how these mechanisms basically work. That's what everyone can criticize, but then they need to do a good research for themselves, because you can find it on the websites, on the Central and the BIS, etc. It is just readable now. Why? The truth is put in front of you, for everybody. People need to make a choice, and the need is really a need. No choice also means a choice. That is the time we are in now. Our free will is respected, is once again sanctified. Two traces start showing up now in the field. And it will be needed to make a choice. The matrix is really going to play its part. Are we going to stand up for ourselves? Are we going to develop things ourselves again? Because what we are talking about concerning the elections, we give our voice away. We give our right to others to make decisions for us. As long as we maintain that kind of mechanisms worldwide, then we also make a choice, don't we? We choose their program. That is a slave program.
By joining it, not responding and standing up against it, yes.
Yes, so that's what I told my wife in France. It is the banking system, the monetary financial system. Then she replied, well, that's where you come from. I said, but hello, I made this promise to myself that I would never go back in there. Well, she said, if this promise was to yourself, perhaps you can possibly break this promise for once. If I say something or make a promise, I will always keep my promise, so that's what is very difficult for me. But I did it anyways, so for once in my life I broke a promise, and it was to myself. In order to map that mechanism, the monetary system, the banking system in any case, that model, and to create a tool to offer. There are all kinds of tools now being developed worldwide, offered to the people. Also concerning energy and healthcare, the financial system. Worldwide there are manifestations emerging, all of which are presented to us to do things differently.
Because you are still in contact with people from the banking industry, but how do they respond to the story you bring about?
Well, the response is very positive from the banking world, because at first I got a lot of support from people who are still serving in this world, in the old world. Wow, you have the guts to tell people about the things we do. That's one of them. They are also caught, you know. Those people want to get out. There are not so many bankers who are independent. Those are the bribe ones, they know everything. But those people within the banking systems are just like everybody, stuck with the mortgage, with the family. They are deeply in debt depending on their position, just saying it is not all black and white, right? It is not us and them, we also need to reconsider that dualistic principle. So these people are giggling inside, and they really hope for people to stand up and choose different. So we can finally do something good. Please do not expect that every banker is a hero who will sacrifice everything, but telling what is going on in their world.
No, so you mean to say that they're on the tip of their chair to tell it. They don't have the guts to do it, and they're waiting until they get the support of the population.
Because they are, until today, actually not interested. I mean to say, what is the average person talking about? No, you need public support. You cannot expect everyone to be a hero. So yes, as long as the people do not vote differently, are not standing up, everything remains as it is. So that is one thing. I was in a meeting with an ex-top banker, and this man got a message on his cell phone from a colleague who is still in the business. He said, well, what do you think just happened? One of our former colleagues is telling about blah blah blah, etc. And he sees it and said, Ronald, look what I just got from an ex-colleague from the top.
Fantastic.
He said I will tell him, yes, that's right, because he's sitting next to me right now. People who came out of this world, maybe it will surprise you, but the people who did have the courage to escape the system are jumping into the deep, and they no longer live an easy life. They also need support and a kind of shelter. If we approach all those bankers armed with a knife saying you are a banker, because there are some people, they are children from bankers, who rather say during their lecture at school that their father is a pole dancer in a gay bar, instead of telling that their father is a banker.
Yes, I also heard of that.
Yes, so it's very difficult for a lot of people to get out of it. If the people think black and white about everything there is, right, then only a few will be released. Most of the times it occurs through crisis. And what we see is a lot of bankers who are released through suicide. That is also a way to get out.
Yes, they fly from their own bank buildings without wings.
Yes, it always has to do with so-called accidents, but for a lot of people it is very intense. In fact, I can say that in the top layers, actually in all layers, many people are waiting for breakthroughs, for support from the population, but that does not happen so much. Most people prefer to stay behind their keyboards and their life. I talked about their beer, their wine, or whatever. Oh, we are fine.
But that is also deliberately programmed, as you said earlier, by mass psychology, manipulation, propaganda.
Yes, but though that does not relieve you from the responsibility. That does not relieve you because you still have inner feelings.
No, that is right.
We are no robots.
No, but personally I think if you are spending lots of time behind the television, in front of the TV I should better say, then it seems to be that you get swept away, or you are programmed, which makes you more powerless by losing touch or intuition.
Yes, people often experience a lot of powerlessness. The footage of Syria are shown to us. And we already talked about the things behind all that.
Yes.
You know what? Sometimes I really do not know what needs to be done here on Earth to get people moving because they are still sitting in their chair. And I do not refer to violent rebellion of some kind. No, I'm talking about making connection. Unite. See who we really are. That is actually the only one thing that matters. Oneness in diversity. I'm not sure if I talked about this previously, but the metaphor behind it is look at your body. Did I mention this before about the little cells in our body?
No.
Our body is made up of all cells. Of course, it has deeper layers, but this is concerning the cells, and every cell is unique. And it has its own function and role. And it works together with all the other cells, and thus makes its entire vehicle. The entire body. And we here on Earth, humanity, every human being is a unique cell. And if it is going to function as a body, we get a bigger manifestation of a body. But because everyone has his unique capabilities, his unique talents, those are most of the time the things that make you happy. But then you can say, but oh, if I'm going to do this, I have no income anymore. We are a whole, which is a utopia. We are a whole. But we just believe in the illusion that we are not a whole because we are stuck in the dualistic program. But if you get the courage to do this, like I always did on a small scale with, for example, 1,000 men, on a housing project, then you already see that body emerge. Because we all have the same ambition, the same goals, and everyone is using their talents. And then it appears to be one body that perfectly fills each other. And together you build the most impossible things. At least that was their thought. And yes, that is the point.
Yes, and that awareness is needed. And therefore it is good that you share this story.
Someone has to do it. And yet I really did not know where it would lead me. I really did not know, which applies to all from pregnancy, the baby to be born, to the future. When we choose to decide things together within the family, we did not have a clue about the things to come. If we had known, we really did not do this to speak, because, geez, this is the toughest route ever. But we are determined about that. Finally, we want, because of our love of our children has expanded enormously, we finally want to face every child on earth so we can say, dear child, we did everything, really everything to make your future, your world a better place. Because if we don't, you do not want to live anymore. And yet I ask every father and every mother and everyone who loves a child, how much do you really love your child? How much do you really love your child? How much do you really love your child? Feel about it, no thinking. Thinking destroys more than you want. Go and feel how much you really love your child. Of all other children, maybe you are a grandfather, maybe you are an uncle, an aunt. It does not matter to me. Everybody has some kind of connection with children. They are our future. What legacy are we giving them? Based on the current vampire system, we are wrecking the earth. We do not even have an earth to live on anymore in the future. Did you think all those poisoning have no impact? Don't you think that if we do not make choices that the Third World War will be a nice trip? Because that is the target they are aiming for, if they need it. And that is no fear-mongering. Just take a look around this world to see what's happening. They did not put those nuclear weapons down for no reason as a piece of art or whatever. All the things created by humanity have been for destruction. Let's hope that this is not going to happen, that people choose to walk the right path. If they have to, they are going to use them. After the Second World War, as we knew, after the Second World War, we all knew at once, no more war. No, we embraced the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Yes, we went for it. Every human being on earth, no hunger anymore, clothes, a job, a roof over your head. Wow, we were all so positive at once. It did not take long and it was gone. And since the Second World War, until today, we have had no more wars and had more victims. And did we learn something? Did we really come to our hearts? Are we really going to feel what it's all about? Did we really become human? Did we really stand up? Did we really begin to love our children? I see little of that. We are offering junk food to our children. Junk food. Their whole youth is being spoiled. We create zombies that do not even come from behind their screen. Step up the train. 80 to 90% of the people is just focused on their screen. Is this the world we want? It is all based on free will, you know. So it is needed. It is needed. I'm so glad you guys dare to do this. You really are golden. I hope people will realize that too. That they will realize you did everything for free. And that you have no income. If there are 18 or 18 million people listening all over the world, would it not be a little trouble to donate, for example, $1 or €1 or whatever you want, symbolically from the heart? So you can even build a normal life and can invest in your teams. So what, you can create a stage for the whole world? Because since that first interview I received testimonials, also from dentists who became biological dentists, of which the entire pharmaceutical industry has gotten over them and have been financially broken. Their lives were threatened, they still fight for their existence. Perhaps they also want to speak out.
They are very welcome.
Yes, and so I met a woman. She nowadays runs a therapeutic center for top managers. Top managers, women. You really do not want to know what they have gone through during their life. From their childhood concerning abuse and mistreatment, This is the reason why they are in the top. They can turn off everything, just like sometimes I do not succeed so often anymore because, and there I go again. But by acting very tough, women will reach the top. I got testimonials from a woman who has been abused in satanic circles until 13 years of age. There is so much suffering, there is so much grief, there is so much sorrow in the Netherlands. It is incredible, but yes, we are here in the biggest black hole in the universe. I'm not sure if you are aware of that. Holland is the darkest hole on earth. Almost all the shit originated from this country. So it is our task to turn it around from out of the Netherlands. If I can trust the testimonies from the Dalai Lama or whatever his name is. Friends of mine went 2 times to his congress when he visited the Netherlands. The Dalai Lama or whatever to me is always hard to pronounce.
Dalai Lama.
And he said the transition, the great changes on earth, they will emerge from the Netherlands and are spreading all over the world.
I am convinced of that.
I had a big laugh back then. I thought, what is the man babbling about? But it starts to become clear that this man has had some foresight. Things have to be solved here. The shit started here and will end here, and from here good things will arise.
The Dutch Vision Movement.
Let's make it the Dutch Vision Movement. Yes, absolutely, do it, because we were responsible for the slavery, right? We established the cocaine industry. What do you think of the oil companies?
The Bilderberg Group.
The deltas of Nigeria, totally destroyed, including the people. Our oil companies. We can turn the black pages 1,000 times and we still do not see a single blank page. Or VOC Indonesia, how much do you need? It is awful.
We are writing one here right now.
We are masters in the creating innovation, but we used it in the wrong way.
One of the questions people asked is, why is he still alive? Because that would mean that he is protected from out of the world he's talking about. And yes, that smells a bit like controlled opposition. What's up with that?
Yes, I received a question like that. No, because it is very understandable from the world we know. No, I mean, if you do something against certain powerful rulers, they do not hesitate to invade a country, right? Most of the time it is about monetary affairs, like Gaddafi, which at one point had a golden dinner and a number of things, and they invaded Libya. So they do not hesitate to kill people. So I can understand this question very well. Because the world I come from is a very tough one. But I signed a contract. I think I told you about that in part 1. And that is for life. And what I was briefly talking about is my tapering off period, in which I began to refuse to do things. And what they took me. You said to me, perhaps they equipped you with programs. No, that is not the point. But what I experienced back then from treatments and tortures was intended as an excitation to ensure my silence for the rest of my life. That was one thing that was really evident. Don't think you can get away with this in no way. And what they made very clear to me, because when it was all about myself, I would come over it. But what they made very clear during the treatment, and it is hard to imagine now for whoever, but once you are involved in this, you really can understand what they are talking about. It is not only concerning me, but it has also to do with your bloodlines. So it is also about your wife, your children, and name it. Everyone might have an accident or whatever. That was already a lot more of a heavy artillery, what they brought in. The only thing I put in front of them, because it is insane to tell this, but despite of all the tortures, there was also a sort of bargain involved. I was able to tell that I was also built up in a dossier, with the sensitive information, because I am not stupid either. I knew what level I was playing on.
So, your life insurance.
So that was also contributed to those shady dealings. We did not split up as friends. You cannot put it that way. They have made me completely rotten. Well, the finishing touch came from my body itself. I died. But there was more. The companies I ran were under constructions, offshore constructions. It was one of the specialities to do it that way. They also made me. I better say they forced me, because that were my choices anyway. It is to renounce my business and my assets, the official business what I built up. So everything I did build up, so to speak, through them was headed straight, well, just return the keys. So in that sense there was also no way out. All of that happened in that period. I was finally released. I was still busy with phasing out. I am on one no could provide it, collapsed, hospitalized, and from that moment I disappeared. And I disappeared for a long time. I need to say that too. I did not only stay in some clinics for a very long time, I stayed under the radar. My wife, who became my ex-wife soon after, was hiding with the children. She also fled. We were all hiding for a long period of time. All out of anxiety, all out of fear of things that could happen to us. Because in one way or another I perhaps redeem my own life. But you do not trust it to be real. So after I was discharged from the clinics and became physically fine, so to speak, I never returned into the system. I started to live a life outside the system. So I did not have contact with my loved ones. This lasted 11 years, right? Everybody thinks, oh, it's also easy what I'm telling. For 11 years I had, and then they will say, yes, but yes, I got everything back, what I've invested in the negativity. I can assure you that it is far worse to live with the knowledge that you still have children out of reach. You do not know if they are still alive, how they are doing. That's far worse than when you know your child is dead. That's also quite awful, but this is much worse. So for all the people missing their child, I know what this is like. That is the worst thing that can happen. In that way, without bank accounts or even without something legal, I was living for a long time. In those days I went abroad. It was only a matter many years later, because that was in 2002, 2003, that I, for myself and my family, everybody was like, indeed everyone abides with the agreements, it is over. Then I slowly came back and came more and more in the picture. So yes, on the one hand I was lucky, and on the other hand I died, but I survived. I do not have a complete answer to all of this. It has been the providence. I heard something about higher power. What was I, for example?
Abduction, I asked, or controlled opposition?
Yes, controlled opposition. Well, what I can explain to everyone on Earth is that I am a free man. Of course I am an entrepreneur during my whole life, that is the feeling I always have with me. But I really can claim this. I also told that I have come to believe, I would like to say, that I am not a member of any religious movement. I do not belong to any organization except for an organization that I am now part of. I am not allowed to advertise, but I am part of the United People Foundation. That is the only thing that I am committed to. That has to do with this manifestation I talked about in an earlier stage. But for the rest I am fully independent, free, yes. And concerning that goes beyond the earthly stuff. I appeal to the eternal. I am free forever. And for the people who the Muslim world respects or acknowledges the Holy Bible, Holy Book, not only the Quran, but also the Old Testament, the Torah, and the New Testament, it is fully acknowledged by the Muslims. And I appeal to John chapter 3 verse 16. That is sacred to me, and I believe in that, so I am redeemed.
Which means?
That means that's an article about the creator of heaven and earth, who states that his firstborn son, in the translation is said to be his only son, in his firstborn son is sacrificed for all mankind, so we are all free. That is the free translation, what the real purist will try to break down, but that is what it means to me. Everything has become a breakthrough. Everything is redeemed. Everything negative is gone. Why? Because of the breakthrough. And that is what I really explained in part 1. The moment we, the people, are going to stand up as a manifestation of light, everything will disappear. Because every negativity remaining on earth is through us. We are the channel. So people who will allow the negativity to flow through them, they are no longer powerful. A breakthrough is achieved. They will get their status, their ambition, their money, their career, whatever. They will be bought. Their soul is taking over. At the very moment someone decides, I do not want this anymore, it is gone. That is what I meant when I said we are standing up with the mass. Then all the shit on earth will disappear, because that shit no longer exists. We maintain it.
And thereby controlled opposition no longer exists.
Nothing exists anymore. But so I'm really free, redeemed. I stand with it and no one can claim me. In that sense, nobody here on earth, I can deal with anybody because I live from inclusivity. Who am I to judge about someone else? That sounds almost biblical, but there are just certain truths. Because you come to this story of the positive. In the Bible there was a prostitute which was thrown at the feet of Joshua. Most people know him as Jesus. And he said to the people, okay, she was a prostitute or she played a whore.
Mary Magdalena.
And then he said, if your slate is clean, then you can throw stones. Nobody threw the stone if their slates. Nobody had a clean slate. Because if we were all honest, we are all having something that is not right. Lies or whatever. So I work from inclusivity. My mission is a good management of all life. I said it before, I care about the children. Everybody who joins or can find themselves in a good management of life, of all life, is welcome. And of course, you may come from a dark hole, fine. Perhaps you, just like me, have been up to everything, fine. Take the responsibility, take the consequences, but don't be afraid. Because there's a whole network of people welcoming you. Because every talent you are using for evil, you can also use for the good. And that is what we are waiting for. And everyone who stays here, fine. But on a certain moment, it will not work out very well. Because you die sooner or later. You eat yourself. So I am alive and yes, I am protected. But not by earthly things. It is about, as I call it, the creator of heaven and earth. And no, I am not a religious fanatic or whatever. I have faith. I have faith, and if I had not, I would not have been here. Because you put everything at risk.